The divine calling that sets the chosen apart from the rest of the world is not something that can be earned by human effort or determined by human wisdom, but rather it is an appointment that flows from the very heart of God, written before time began. To be chosen is to be marked by heaven with a purpose that transcends ordinary existence, carrying within it the eternal fingerprints of God's will. It is not about status, wealth, or earthly recognition, but about an unseen hand directing, shaping, and guiding a life into alignment with divine intention. The chosen one often discovers that their life carries a weight that others cannot perceive, a deep inner knowing that their path is not like everyone else's. While others may live for the fleeting pleasures and passing applause of the world, the chosen one feels a quiet pull, a sacred tug towards something higher, something that does not fade away. This sense of being set apart manifests early, sometimes in moments of solitude, sometimes in the stirring of the spirit when the world around them feels strangely empty, and sometimes in the realization that they cannot fit into the molds others try to press upon them. The chosen are often misunderstood because their calling is invisible to human eyes. Friends, family, and even society may question why they do not follow the same path as everyone else, why they carry a burden that seems out of place, why they reject what others chase so eagerly. Yet the chosen one knows, even in silence, that they were not created to blend in but to stand out, not for their own glory, but for the glory of God who has marked them for a greater mission. The divine calling does not always announce itself with thunder or visible signs. It may begin quietly, with a whisper in the heart, a dream that will not fade, or a hunger for truth that cannot be quenched by ordinary answers. And as the chosen grows into awareness, they realize that their calling is both a gift and a responsibility, carrying both honor and weight. The chosen life is often one of separation, not in arrogance, but in consecration. To be called by God is to be taken out of the ordinary, refined like gold in the fire, and entrusted with a role that carries eternal significance. Many times the chosen will walk alone, not because they desire isolation, but because the journey requires a kind of strength and clarity that cannot be diluted by distractions. They may find themselves losing people, losing opportunities, or being rejected by places where they once felt comfortable. This is not a curse but a sign of being set apart, for God removes what does not belong so that His chosen can step fully into the destiny He designed for them. It is not easy, and it often comes with tears, but in those moments the chosen one learns to lean more on God than on man, to seek His voice above every other voice, and to walk in obedience even when the path feels unclear. What makes the divine calling so profound is that it redefines identity. The chosen one does not find their worth in titles, achievements, or human validation, but in the truth that the Creator of the universe has declared them set apart. This identity gives strength when the world misunderstands, hope when circumstances seem hopeless, and courage when fear tries to whisper defeat. The chosen walk with a light that cannot be dimmed, because it does not come from them but from the one who called them. Even in their weakest moments, the divine call sustains them, reminding them that they were made for more than what is seen, that their steps are ordered, and that nothing can separate them from the hand of God guiding their lives. Throughout history, the chosen ones have always stood out, not because they sought recognition, but because their calling demanded it. Joseph, marked with dreams in his youth, was rejected by his brothers and thrown into a pit, yet he carried within him the divine destiny of saving nations. Moses, raised in Pharaoh's house, could not ignore the burning call to deliver his people. David, a shepherd boy forgotten by his family, was anointed to be king. Esther, an orphan girl, was positioned to save her people for such a time as this. These lives remind us that the chosen path is rarely smooth, but it is always significant, and every trial, every rejection, every delay is shaping the chosen into the vessel prepared for God's glory. The divine calling also awakens a deeper sensitivity to the spiritual realm. The chosen often feel the weight of things others overlook, discerning what is hidden beneath the surface, sensing the movement of God in ways that words cannot fully explain. They may be drawn into prayer unexpectedly, stirred with compassion for the broken, or convicted to live with a purity that others dismiss. This sensitivity is not weakness, but the evidence of being attuned to heaven's frequency, set apart to hear what others cannot, to see what others ignore, and to stand where others fall. Such sensitivity can feel like a burden, but it is also a blessing, for it positions the chosen to walk closely with God, to receive instructions that shape nations, families, and generations. At times, the divine calling feels like a fire shut up in the bones, refusing to be ignored. The chosen cannot be content with compromise, cannot settle into a life of mediocrity, because the Spirit within them pushes them forward, reminding them of the greatness they are called to walk in. They may try to run, as Jonah once did, but the calling follows them, for it is written into their very being. Even in seasons of rebellion or wandering, the chosen are pursued relentlessly by God's love, drawn back again and again to the path they were meant to walk. And though this pursuit can be uncomfortable, it is also the greatest sign of divine favor, for God disciplines those he loves and never abandons the ones he has marked as his own. The chosen calling also carries with it the mystery of divine timing. The world may expect quick results, instant recognition, or immediate success, but the chosen understand that God works according to his seasons. A seed does not bear fruit the day it is planted, and the chosen must often endure long periods of preparation, where the roots grow deep before the branches rise high. In these waiting seasons, it is easy to doubt, to question, to wonder if the call was real, yet it is in these hidden years that God builds character, patience, and strength. The chosen one learns that being set apart is not about rushing ahead, but about trusting the process, knowing that when the appointed time comes, nothing can stop the crown of glory God has prepared. The divine calling also transforms how the chosen view trials. To others, hardships may seem like punishment, but to the chosen, they are training grounds. Every storm becomes a lesson, every valley a place of encounter, every setback is set up for something greater. The chosen come to realize that nothing in their journey is wasted, for God weaves every detail into the tapestry of their destiny. Their scars become testimonies, their pain becomes power, and their brokenness becomes the very place where God's glory shines brightest. This is the paradox of being chosen, that weakness becomes strength, and loss becomes gain, because the hand of God is present in every step. To be chosen is to live with eternity in view. While others may chase temporary crowns of wealth, fame, or pleasure, the chosen keep their eyes on the incorruptible crown promised by God. Their motivation is not applause, but obedience, not recognition, but faithfulness. They know that the glory of this world will fade, but the glory of God endures forever, and to be crowned by him is worth more than all the treasures of earth. This eternal perspective gives them the endurance to press on, the humility to stay grounded, and the courage to stand firm even when the world stands against them. The divine calling also ignites a life of service. The chosen one understands that being set apart is not about superiority, but about responsibility. They are called not to be served, but to serve, to pour out what God has poured into them, to be a light in the darkness and a vessel of hope to the broken. Their calling is not for their own benefit, but for the impact it has on others, for the lives transformed through their obedience, for the generations blessed through their faithfulness. In this way, the chosen reflect the very heart of Christ, who, though crowned in glory, came to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. And so the chosen one walks with both a heavy and a holy weight, carrying within them the tension of being human yet set apart, ordinary yet marked by the extraordinary hand of God. They may stumble, they may fall, they may face seasons of doubt, but the divine calling remains, unshaken and irrevocable. For what God has spoken cannot be undone, and what he has ordained cannot be overturned. The chosen one learns that their life is not their own, that their steps are ordered, that their battles are not theirs to fight alone, but that the one who called them is faithful to complete what he began. The trials, struggles, and tests that shape the chosen into vessels of glory are not random obstacles but divinely permitted seasons that carve the soul, purify the heart, and strengthen the spirit for the weight of the destiny ahead. To be chosen is to walk a path unlike the ordinary, a path filled with refining fires, breaking moments, and lessons that cannot be learned through comfort alone. The chosen are tested not because God desires to see them broken but because He desires to see them transformed into vessels worthy of the calling placed upon them. Every difficulty, every rejection, every silent season is a tool in the hand of the potter shaping the clay into something extraordinary. The chosen one may at times cry out in confusion, wondering why the path is so hard, why the weight feels unbearable, why doors close when they seem ready to walk through them, yet in every struggle there is hidden purpose, for God never wastes pain. Trials often begin with isolation. The chosen one is separated from the familiar, taken out of the places where comfort resides, and brought into seasons of solitude where only God can speak. This isolation feels like abandonment at first, but it is actually preparation. In the quiet places, without distraction, the chosen learn to hear the whisper of God's voice, to depend on His presence more than human support, and to discover strength within weakness. Many chosen ones have found their defining encounters with God not in crowds but in caves, deserts, prisons, and wildernesses. Moses encountered God in the wilderness of Midian, David was shaped in lonely fields as a shepherd, Joseph was tested in the silence of prison, and even Christ himself was led into the wilderness before stepping into his mission. Solitude teaches the chosen one endurance, discipline, and intimacy with the Creator in ways nothing else can. Struggles come in many forms, and for the chosen, they are often relentless. They may face betrayal from those closest to them, as Joseph faced the betrayal of his own brothers. They may face rejection, as David did when overlooked by his family and hunted by Saul. They may face misunderstanding, as Jeremiah did when his prophetic voice brought him ridicule and opposition. The chosen are not exempt from heartbreak, from disappointment, from deep valleys of sorrow, but rather, they walk through these experiences more intensely, for their journey carries greater stakes. Yet it is in the very weight of these struggles that resilience is born, that faith is stretched beyond its limits, that courage is forged like steel in the fire. Without the test there is no testimony, and without the struggle there is no strength. The refining fires of trials reveal what is hidden in the heart. When the chosen are pressed, what is within them surfaces. Fear, doubt, pride, and weakness all rise to the surface under the heat of testing, not to condemn them but to cleanse them. Like gold purified in the furnace, the impurities are burned away, leaving behind something pure and radiant. This process is painful, for it demands surrender, humility, and patience, but it is necessary to prepare the chosen to carry the glory without being consumed by it. Many can taste success, but only the refined can bear it with grace. The chosen cannot step into their crown until they have been stripped of everything that would hinder their purpose, and so the fire continues until the vessel is ready. Tests often take the form of waiting. The chosen are rarely rushed into their destiny. Instead, they are led through seasons of delay where promises seem distant and prayers seem unanswered. Waiting is perhaps the hardest test, for it stretches the heart to trust God's timing rather than their own desires. Abraham waited decades for the promise of a son. Joseph waited years between his dreams and his position of authority. David waited long seasons between his anointing and his enthronement. Jesus himself waited 30 years before revealing himself publicly. Waiting feels like wasted time, but it is holy time, time where roots grow deep, where faith is stretched, where patience becomes endurance. In the waiting, the chosen learn to depend not on what they see but on what they know God has spoken. Waiting refines motives, proving whether the chosen desires the gift more than the giver, whether they seek glory for themselves or glory for God. The chosen also face spiritual battles that test their faith. They encounter resistance from unseen forces, for the enemy knows the power of a chosen one stepping fully into their purpose. Temptations, distractions, and attacks come not to destroy the chosen but to derail them, to weaken their faith, to make them doubt their calling. Yet every battle fought strengthens the spirit, teaches discernment, and equips the chosen with authority to overcome. The spiritual warfare may manifest in discouragement, in obstacles that seem insurmountable, in sudden storms that rise without warning, but in every conflict the chosen learns to wield prayer as a weapon, to cling to God's promises as a shield, to stand firm in the truth that greater is He who is in them than he who is in the world. These unseen wars shape the chosen into warriors, able to stand not just for themselves but for others, carrying victories that bring deliverance beyond their own lives. Rejection is another hallmark of the chosen's journey. They often face closed doors where they expected opportunities, cold silence where they longed for affirmation, and the painful reality of being misunderstood by those they love. Rejection stings deeply, but for the chosen it is also redirection. Every no from man is a yes from God to a higher path. Joseph's rejection from his brothers led him to Egypt, the very place his destiny would unfold. David's rejection from his family and persecution from Saul led him to the wilderness, where he developed the skills and strength needed to be king. Jesus himself was rejected by his own people, yet it was through that rejection that salvation was brought to the world. Rejection teaches the chosen that their worth does not come from human approval but from divine appointment, that their validation is not from the crowd but from the one who called them before time. Struggles also come in the form of inner battles. The chosen wrestle with doubt, insecurity, fear, and at times even the temptation to walk away from the calling altogether. They may feel unworthy, too broken, too weak to carry the mantle placed upon them. Like Moses, they may cry, "I am not eloquent." Like Gideon, they may question, "How can I save Israel? I am the least in my family." Like Jeremiah, they may protest, "I am too young." Yet it is in these moments of weakness that the chosen discover the truth: God does not call the qualified, He qualifies the called. The inner struggles refine humility, teaching the chosen to depend not on their own ability but on God's strength. The thorn in Paul's flesh remained, yet it became the very place where God's grace was magnified. The chosen learn that it is not about perfection but about surrender, not about their sufficiency but about God's sufficiency through them. Another layer of testing comes through loss. The chosen often endure seasons where they lose what they thought they needed: relationships, possessions, positions, or even dreams they held dear. Loss strips away false securities, teaching the chosen to anchor their hope not in what can be taken but in what is eternal. Job, though stripped of everything, declared, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust him." Loss breaks the heart, but it also enlarges it, creating room for deeper compassion, greater empathy, and unshakable dependence on God. Those who have lost much often carry the richest testimonies, for they have discovered the faithfulness of God in the darkest valleys, and their lives become beacons of hope for others walking through similar pain. The chosen also face tests of obedience. Sometimes the struggle is not external but internal, a choice between following God's voice or following the easier path. Obedience is rarely convenient, often requiring sacrifice, courage, and faith in the unseen. Abraham was tested when asked to leave his homeland without knowing where he was going. Noah was tested when told to build an ark in a land that had never seen rain. Jesus himself was tested in Gethsemane, surrendering his will to the Father's. Obedience in these moments defines the chosen, for it proves where their allegiance lies. Every step of obedience, no matter how small, builds trust with God and positions the chosen for greater responsibility. The tests of obedience may come through giving up something treasured, stepping into something frightening, or staying faithful in something unnoticed, but each test strengthens the chosen to walk in alignment with divine will. Even the delays, the hardships, and the breaking moments are part of the shaping. Like a potter pressing the clay, God uses pressure to mold the chosen, knowing exactly how much they can endure, never more, never less. The process hurts, but the chosen learns to see through the pain, to glimpse the beauty of what is being formed. They may not understand in the moment, but with time they look back and realize that every trial carried them closer to their purpose, every struggle made them stronger, every test prepared them to carry the crown with honor. Without the breaking, the vessel cannot be filled, and without the pressing, the oil cannot flow. The chosen are pressed, but not crushed, struck down, but not destroyed, because the hand of God is steady upon them, shaping them with love even through the fire. The eternal crown of victory and honor given by God to his faithful ones is not like the fading crowns of men, nor the temporary rewards that this world offers, for it is a crown woven with eternal glory, unshakable authority, and the divine recognition of a life lived in obedience and faithfulness to the call of God. While earthly crowns are made of gold, jewels, and fragile metals, destined to rust, tarnish, or be forgotten with the passing of time, the heavenly crown given to the chosen is incorruptible, unending, and carries the seal of God's approval. It is not awarded to those who begin the race with zeal but fail to endure, nor to those who seek recognition from men, but to those who walk faithfully through trials, hold firmly to their faith, and remain steadfast until the end. This crown is not given lightly, but with weight and meaning, for it signifies that the chosen has overcome the world, resisted the schemes of the enemy, and completed the journey marked for them by heaven itself. The chosen one does not stumble into this crown by accident. It is the fruit of a life shaped by trials, tested in fire, and refined through obedience. Each scar becomes a jewel in the crown, each tear a glimmering light upon it, each battle a story etched into its eternal brilliance. The crown represents victory over sin, triumph over fear, perseverance through rejection, and unshakable faith through storms. It is the symbol of the chosen one's unwavering trust in God, the seal of divine approval declaring that they remained faithful when others fell, that they endured to the end when others gave up, and that they lived not for themselves but for the glory of the one who called them. Unlike earthly awards, which can be lost or taken, this crown is everlasting, a treasure laid up in heaven where moth and rust cannot destroy, where thieves cannot steal, where no power of darkness can diminish its brilliance. The crown of glory is also a reflection of intimacy with God. It is not merely a reward for works done but a recognition of the heart that chose to walk closely with the Creator. The chosen who receive this crown are those who loved God more than the world, who remained faithful in seasons of wilderness, who held on to his promises even when all seemed lost, who lived with eternity in their sight while the world lived for fleeting pleasures. The crown is a declaration of divine love, the Father's way of saying, "Well done, good and faithful servant." It is the eternal evidence that the life of the chosen was not in vain, that their sacrifices were not wasted, that their tears were not unseen. Every hidden prayer, every silent act of faith, every unseen battle fought in the secret place is remembered and reflected in the crown placed upon their head. This crown also signifies authority in the eternal realm. Just as kings wear crowns as a sign of their rule, so the chosen wear their crown as a sign of their victory and authority in Christ. It represents that they have overcome, that they have been entrusted with eternal honor, that they are co-heirs with Christ in the kingdom of God. This crown is not about power for selfish use but about the eternal honor of reigning with Christ, of walking in the fullness of the inheritance promised to the faithful. It is the culmination of every promise spoken by God, the fulfillment of every word declared over the chosen life. No enemy, no rejection, no failure can erase it, for it is sealed by the hand of God Himself, the King of Kings who delights to crown His children with everlasting joy. The path to this crown, however, is not one of ease. The chosen must endure the refining seasons, must persevere through trials, must walk faithfully in obedience even when it costs them everything. The crown is the reward of those who did not grow weary in well-doing, who pressed on when the road was long, who refused to surrender to discouragement, who overcame temptation, and who stood firm in the faith even when the world turned against them. This is why the crown is so precious, for it is not cheaply given but earned through the endurance of a life lived in faithfulness. Every sacrifice, every loss, every struggle adds weight to its glory. To the chosen, the crown is not just a symbol of victory but the culmination of a journey where God's grace carried them, His Spirit empowered them, and His hand sustained them through it all. The eternal crown is also a witness to others. The chosen one crowned in glory becomes a testimony to all creation of the faithfulness of God and the reward of obedience. Angels rejoice to see the chosen honored, demons tremble to see their schemes defeated, and generations are inspired by the story of a life that endured to the end. The crown is not merely for the chosen themselves but for the glory of God displayed through them. It becomes a radiant light declaring that God's promises are true, that His rewards are sure, and that His chosen will not labor in vain. It is a legacy that stretches beyond time, a story that inspires others to remain faithful, to walk in obedience, to fix their eyes on the eternal prize that awaits. Even in receiving the crown, the chosen one remains humble, for they know that the victory was never truly their own. It was God who gave strength in weakness, God who provided courage in fear, God who sustained them through the storms. And so, the chosen lay their crowns at His feet in worship, acknowledging that all glory belongs to Him. The crown becomes not a symbol of self-exaltation but of worship, for it is the evidence of God's faithfulness, God's power, and God's grace working in their life. The chosen knows that without Him, they would not have endured, they would not have overcome, they would not have reached the finish line. The crown becomes their eternal offering of gratitude, laid at the feet of the one who called them, carried them, and crowned them. The eternal crown of victory is also a reminder of hope for those still on their journey. To the chosen walking through trials, it whispers that their pain has purpose, their struggles have meaning, their sacrifices will be rewarded. It reminds them that the night will not last forever, that the valley will give way to mountain tops, that the tears will be exchanged for joy. The crown is the assurance that the race is not in vain, that the finish line is worth every step, that the eternal glory awaiting them far outweighs the temporary struggles of this life. The chosen walk with their eyes fixed on this hope, knowing that the present sufferings are not worthy to be compared to the glory that will be revealed in them. This crown also represents transformation. The chosen do not receive it as the same broken vessels they once were, but as refined, radiant, transformed children of God, clothed in righteousness, made whole in His presence. It is the final step in the journey from weakness to strength, from brokenness to glory, from mortality to immortality. The crown is placed upon the head of one who has been made new, who has been changed by the hand of God, who now stands radiant in His light. It is not just a crown of victory, but of identity, declaring that the chosen one has completed the journey, embraced the call, endured the trials, and become all that God intended them to be. The eternal crown is unshakable. Unlike the fragile victories of this world, it cannot be stolen, cannot be destroyed, cannot be diminished. It endures for all eternity, a symbol of everlasting joy, everlasting victory, everlasting honor. The chosen wear it not for a moment, not for a season, but forever, walking in the fullness of God's promise, dwelling in His presence, reigning with Him in eternal glory. No power of darkness can remove it, no force of evil can tarnish it, no trial can undo it. It is secured by the blood of Christ, sealed by the Spirit of God, and given by the Father who delights to honor His children. To receive this crown is to step into a joy that never ends, a peace that never fades, a glory that never diminishes. And so the chosen one crowned in glory becomes the living evidence of God's promise fulfilled, the story of divine faithfulness, the testimony of a life that endured, overcame, and triumphed through His power. Their crown is not just their reward but a declaration that God is true, that His word never fails, that His chosen shall never be forsaken. It is the final chapter of a journey marked by faith, sealed with endurance, and crowned with everlasting honor. The chosen one wears the crown not for their own pride but for the glory of the one who crowned them, walking forever in the light of His presence, shining with the eternal brilliance of His glory. This crown is the victory of victories, the honor of honors, the eternal seal of a life lived in faithfulness to the call, and the everlasting testimony that God's chosen ones are never forgotten but forever crowned in His glory.